Whispers in the Shadows. The California Panther's return. I never believed in monsters. At least not the kind that lurked in the woods, stalking the shadows between the trees. But that was before the summer of '98, the year everything changed, the year I learned that some legends are rooted in reality. The night air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth as I crept quietly through the underbrush. Each crunch of acorns and twigs beneath my worn hiking boots sent shivers down my spine, a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. I could hear the distant call of an owl echoing through the darkness, its haunting hoot a reminder of my own vulnerability. Turning 15 hadn't made me immune to fear, nor had it dulled the edges of my curiosity. My dad thought I was crazy when I brought up the California Panther, a ghostly feline said to roam the outskirts of our tiny town, Ventura. It was a creature marked by its sleek black coat and haunting yellow eyes, prowling the dense forests and rolling hills. But I'd seen the newspaper articles, heard the stories shared over campfires. They whispered of livestock vanishing overnight and shadows gliding just beyond the tree line. A part of me wanted to catch a glimpse of it, to prove my friends wrong. "Be back by sundown, Anna," Dad had said with a chuckle, his eyes prinkling with laughter, "and for God's sake, stay away from the woods." But I was determined. As soon as the sun dipped below the horizon, I slipped out of the house, feeling the thrill of adventure pulse through my veins. I grabbed my flashlight and hopped the backyard fence, determined to get to the old hunting grounds before it was too late. The moon hung high, casting an eerie silver glow over the land. With every step deeper into the woods, the chirps of crickets and rustling leaves grew louder, almost mocking me. I turned on my flashlight, but the beam flickered and danced over the gnarled branches and underbrush, struggling against the all-encompassing darkness. Wisps of fog curled around my ankles like ghostly fingers. "You're just a cat," I murmured to myself, trying to be brave. A big, fluffy cat. But my heart pounded, and I questioned whether I was speaking to myself or trying to convince the darkness of my confidence. After a while, I came across an old, abandoned cabin, half hidden by thick vines and wildflowers. My curiosity piqued. I crept closer, pushing the creaky door open. It groaned in protest, revealing a dust-laden interior. The musty scent of decaying wood met my nose, mingling with the sweet smell of damp moss that had taken root in the corners. The cabin was empty, at least until I caught a glimpse of something reflecting in the dark, a faint glimmer from the window. I stepped closer, my heart racing. Maybe I would find evidence of the panther. Maybe I'd find something, anything, proof that it existed. Just as I reached out to touch the window frame, a low growl rumbled through the room, reverberating in my chest. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quavering. "Is anyone there?" But only silence responded, thick and suffocating. I could feel it, something lurking just out of sight, watching, waiting. My instincts screamed at me to run, to flee, but curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. I turned the flashlight beam towards the sound, illuminating the far corner of the room. What I saw made my breath catch. A pair of glowing yellow eyes blinked back at me from the shadows, reflecting the flashlight like twin beacons of malice. The eyes were not just large, they were impossibly luminescent, gleaming with a predatory hunger that sent a chill down my spine. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over an old table in my attempt to retreat. It was there, emerging from the murky darkness, a sleek, powerful shape, gliding silently into the moonlight. My heart thudded violently against my ribs as I recognized the panther. Its body was muscular, the fur a glossy midnight black, and its tail flicked with a deliberate grace. The creature paused, its head cocked to one side as if assessing my worth as a meal. I should have turned and fled right then and there, dashed back to the safety of my home, but something about those eyes held me captive. My thoughts raced. I felt my fear morph into an odd fascination. It wasn't just a monster. It was beautiful. The panther moved closer, its nostrils flaring, and I could smell something earthy and musky, a primal scent that made my skin prickle. "Please," I whispered, raising my hands, as if I could somehow show this creature I meant no harm. "I'm just curious." It paused, its ears twitching, listening, and then in a flash of movement, it lunged forward. Time slowed as I stumbled backward, heart racing, as the panther brushed against my leg like a ghostly presence before darting out the cabin door, disappearing into the underbrush. Breathless, I peered into the darkness, my curiosity saturated with adrenaline. Did I just imagine it? Was it all a trick of the light? I swung my flashlight around, scanning for movement, for any sign. The moon bathed the forest in a soft glow, but shadows danced at the edges, teasing my senses. And then I heard it again, the growl, deeper and more resonant, echoing through the trees. The sound sent a wave of panic surging through me. My instincts kicked in, and I turned, ready to bolt back towards home. But as I stumbled out of the cabin, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, lean, and unmistakably human. "Who are you?" I gasped, my heart racing for a different reason. The stranger's eyes glimmered in the moonlight, a fierce intensity that left me breathless. "Did you see it?" he asked, his voice urgent, yet strangely comforting. "The panther?" "Yes," I stammered. I was just looking for it." "Not just looking, are you? You wanted to find it." He stepped closer, and I could see the scruff of his beard, the wild hair hanging over his eyes. "I'm not sure if you realize how dangerous that is. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to see it." "The stories. Stories don't prepare you for the truth," he interjected sharply. "The California Panther is a guardian and a predator. You disturb its territory, it disturbs you." His words hung heavy in the air, a warning. I could feel my bravado cracking, and I realized just how foolish I'd been. "What do we do?" I asked, the fear edging back into my voice. "Stay close," he said, his tone shifting from caution to superstitious reverence. "You need to respect the woods. The panther won't harm those who don't threaten its domain, but the moment you step over that line..." He trailed off, letting the implication linger. Just then, a rustling erupted in the trees behind us, breaking the fragile tension. I turned my flashlight toward the noise, and the beam landed on a patch of darkness that felt alive, electric. I could practically feel the pulse of creatures hidden just beyond the edge of my perception. "We need to go," he said sharply, grabbing my wrist. I flinched at his touch but followed him as we darted through the underbrush, the leaves whispering ominously behind us. As we stumbled deeper into the woods, the panther's growls echoed endlessly, like an ominous chorus that chased us. Fear clawed at my insides, but I could hear the stranger's steady breath, a reassurance amid the chaos. "Do you have a name?" he asked, glancing at me as we dodged low branches. "Anna," I breathed. "And you?" "Simon." "Why are you out here?" I asked, my curiosity surfacing despite my terror. "I'm a tracker. I've been studying the panther, its movements. They say it's a myth, but I know the truth. It's real, and it's watching." I could hardly process his words, but the gravity of his knowledge settled in my gut. We pushed on, our breaths mingling with the cool night air, the growls echoing louder, closer. My legs felt like lead, and each heartbeat became a countdown. "Almost there," Simon urged, pulling me along. Just as dawn began to threaten the horizon, pale streaks of light slicing between the trees, we reached a clearing. I gasped, coming to an abrupt halt. The world around us seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Shadows danced beneath the trees as the last remnants of night began to recede. I could hear birds starting to awaken, their melodies a haunting contrast to the urgency of our escape. But it wasn't just the dawning day that caught my attention. There, just beyond the fringes of the clearing, the panther stood poised like a sentinel, watching us with those horrid, glowing eyes. Somehow, the presence of light made it more powerful, more terrifying. I felt the weight of its gaze, heavy and deliberate. It seemed to weigh our worthiness, judging whether we were worthy or if we needed to be vanquished. "Run," Simon hissed, his voice a whisper of urgency, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, a spectator in my own body. The panther stepped forward, muscles tense, a low growl rumbling from its chest. It felt as though the earth itself held its breath, waiting for the climax of this silent standoff. Then it lunged, but instead of coming for us, it sprang horizontally, disappearing into the thicket. The world spun back into motion, jolting me into action. "Run!" Simon shouted again, grabbing my hand and pulling me with him, darting back through the trees. As we fled, I couldn't shake the image of those eyes, that silent judgment they bore, lingering in my mind. We reached the edge of the woods, the familiar shape of my neighborhood coming into view through the morning mist. I could hear my heart hammering against my ribcage, drowning out the beauty of the dawn. When I finally turned to look back, the panther was gone, swallowed by the shadows of the trees. "We're safe," Simon said, slowing, "for now." "Is it really dangerous?" I managed, my knees shaking beneath me. I thought it wouldn't hurt me." "The woods have their own rules," he said gravely. "You just have to respect them, Anna. The panther is not evil. It's a protector of its land. You only become prey if you intrude." As we walked back toward civilization, a new understanding washed over me. The woods held secrets far older than me, and the stories had truth buried within them. I would never approach the trees the same way again. "Thank you, Simon," I said quietly. He smiled faintly, the glow of dawn illuminating his features. "Just remember, some legends are not meant to be disturbed." As I stepped into the embrace of my home, the world felt lighter, the morning more vibrant. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the California Panther still lingered, blending seamlessly into the shadows of my memory, waiting for the curious, the reckless, and the brave. And as I lay in bed that night, the moonlight spilled through my window. I couldn't help but wonder, how long before the woods called to me again? The next morning, sunlight streamed through my curtains, warm and inviting. The shadows of yesterday's encounter faded, but left an indelible mark on my mind. I pulled my blanket tighter around me, tucking it under my chin, and gazed at the slivers of dust dancing in the golden light. "Hey, Anna," my mom called from downstairs. "Time for breakfast." I groaned and rolled over, feeling the softness of my pillow against my cheek, but a nagging urge pushed me to rise. I stumbled out of bed and made my way to the kitchen, the scent of fried eggs and toast awakening my senses. "Good morning, sleepyhead," my dad said with a grin, his morning beard scruffy and endearing. He turned to me, his spatula in hand, oblivious to the war still raging in my mind about the panther. "Morning," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I poured a glass of juice, the tangy sweetness oddly comforting. My parents chatted about mundane things, work, errands, plans for the weekend, but I couldn't focus on their words. Instead, my thoughts spiraled around the figure of the panther. I replayed every moment of our encounter, the breathtaking power, the quiet understanding in its gaze. "Anna?" My mom's voice broke through my haze. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired," I said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. As the day dragged on, I pushed myself to forget. I met up with Emily, a friend from school, at the local cafe. The warm aroma of roasted coffee beans and baked pastries wrapped around us as we settled down at a small table by the window. "Hey, what's up with you? You seem out of it," she noted, her eyebrow arched in concern. "Just, I don't know, had a weird night in the woods yesterday," I confessed, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Emily's eyes widened, and I could sense her excitement. "You went to the woods? Alone?" "Not alone," I corrected. "Simon was with me, but something happened." "What kind of something?" She leaned in closer, clearly intrigued. I hesitated, then decided to tell her about the panther, the thrill and the fear, leaving out the part about how deeply it affected me. As I spoke, I noticed a shift in her expression, a flicker of disbelief and a hint of envy. "No way, a panther? That's insane," she squealed, her enthusiasm infectious in a way that made my chest tighten. "Yeah, but it felt more like a warning than anything else," I said slowly. "Like I shouldn't have been there." "Legends and all that, huh?" Emily shrugged, her excitement waning. "You know those stories are just meant to scare kids, right? Your mind is probably still playing tricks on you from being in the dark." I opened my mouth to argue, but suddenly I found myself unsure. Was it really just a figment of my imagination? A wild story to tell over coffee? The afternoon faded into evening, and I returned home, the shadows lengthening as the sun dipped below the horizon. My thoughts remained tangled in the panther's gaze. It was not fear that gripped me, but a strange yearning, a magnetic pull towards the very shadows I'd been warned about. After dinner, I busied myself with homework, but the call of the woods echoed in my mind. I felt an insatiable desire to go back, to understand what lurked beyond the edges of my neighborhood. What truths waited beneath the canopy of branches? That evening, I tossed and turned in bed, moonlight casting elongated shadows across my room, flickering against the walls like whispers of a secret. I couldn't let the thought go. It burrowed deeper, a seed of curiosity where fear had once roamed. Finally, I sat up, heart racing. I needed to know. I tiptoed through the stillness of the house, grabbing my jacket and slipping out the door. The cool night air washed over me, brisk and invigorating. As I stepped into the familiar trail that led to the woods, my heart pounded, the blend of excitement and trepidation, a siren's song, urging me forward. Each step crunched on the gravel path, the sounds echoing into the quiet, as if the woods themselves were listening. I reached the line where trees loomed like sentinels, their branches whispering secrets I longed to hear. I took a deep breath, stepping into the cool embrace of the trees, every instinct warning me to turn back. "Hello," I called out, my voice swallowed by the vastness. Silence curled around me, thick and expectant. Only the rustle of leaves and the soft scurry of animals broke the stillness. Then the underbrush stirred, a shadow darting from behind a trunk, and my heart plummeted. There it was, emerging from the darkness, the panther, its sleek body gliding gracefully in the twilight, eyes gleaming in the moonlight. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. We were once again in each other's presence, the protector and the intruder. The tension thrummed between us, electric and profound. Its eyes, filled with ancient wisdom and caution, held me captive. I felt an understanding bloom within me, a connection forged in silence, something deeper than words. I was not just an intruder. I was part of this land, of its stories, a delicate balance. Then, with a final quiet growl, the panther turned, slipping back into the shadows. It was no longer just a creature of fear, but a guardian of secrets, reminding me of the ancient pulse of the wild. As I stood in the dark woods, the vast night unfurling around me, I finally felt the truth. I would never truly belong to the city. My heart thrummed in rhythm with the call of the wilderness, a siren song pulling me deeper into the unknown. With one last look into the dark, I understood that I was home, and this was only the beginning. I took a hesitant step forward, buoyed by the panther's retreat, feeling the wildness of the night wrap around me like a cloak. The shadows shifted, wood and earth whispering beneath my feet, and I pressed further into the heart of the woods. Each breath was steeped in scent, smoky earth, damp leaves, and the lingering sweetness of pine. Just a little further, I murmured to myself, half in defiance, half in hope. I wished to explore the depths where few dared to tread, where stories whispered from the roots of trees, twisted and gnarled by eons. My heart beat a steady thrum as I ventured deeper, guided by curiosity and an inexplicable pull. A vivid flash of movement caught my eye, a flicker in the underbrush. I halted, tension creeping up my spine like icy fingers. It could be the panther again, perhaps returning to inspect me, or something else altogether. My pulse quickened, a primal instinct urging me to prepare for flight if needed. "Hello?" I called, my voice more uncertain than before. The call echoed and faded, hanging heavy in the air like an unanswered question. There was no response, just the soft nocturnal symphony of crickets and rustling leaves. Suddenly, a low growl reverberated from my left, deeper, more menacing than before. My heart leaped, and before I could will myself to turn, a chilling thought gripped me. What if I wasn't alone? I squinted into the darkness, scanning for movement. Shadows danced, elongating and shrinking in the moonlight. The growl rose again, a menacing warning that sent a bolt of fear coursing through me. I felt my instincts kick in, limbs tightening as I instinctively stepped back. Like clockwork, the path I had just walked seemed to darken, the towering trees tightening their grip around me. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the shadows, a vague shape that moved with alarming speed. I turned to run, the ground seeming to shift beneath my feet. The branches grazed my arms, sharp and biting, as if the forest itself wished to ensnare me. I sprinted blindly, heart hammering in my chest, the growl becoming a haunting echo behind me. "Stop!" A voice sliced through the chaos, sharp and clear. "You'll hurt yourself." I skidded to a halt, spinning to face the owner of the voice. A tall figure emerged, cloaked in a tattered black coat, face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. My breath came out in sharp gasps, renewed terror flooding through me. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer. "Easy now," the stranger said, stepping closer but not too close. "I'm a friend, just passing through." The growl faded into the depths of the woods, replaced by an unsettling calm. I felt exposed, as if I'd stumbled into a realm where I didn't belong at all. "You shouldn't be out here alone at night," he continued, eyes glinting under the hat's brim. "The woods have their own rules, and they don't take kindly to trespassers." "I didn't mean to intrude," I began, but he waved me quiet. "Not about intruding. You've awakened something that feasts on fear." Dread pooled in my stomach, my thoughts racing. "The panther?" "It's not just the panther," he said, voice low and intent. "You need to leave. Run back to the city before the darkness fully settles in." I laughed nervously, unsure if this was a twisted joke. "I'm not afraid of the dark." His eyes narrowed, voice steady and serious. "You should be. The darkness has a way of twisting desires, feeding on what you hide away. Those who belong here are marked by it." Time stretched, each second heavy with an unspoken weight. I glanced back into the depths of the woods. My heart raced, torn between the allure of the wilderness and the warning that pulsed through the air. "What do you mean marked?" I whispered, unease crawling through me. He took a step closer, the moonlight illuminating his weary face, hardened by age and experience. "Don't let the beauty of the wild blind you to its darkness." Something flickered in his gaze. Was it warning? Or perhaps a challenge? I felt the tug of the wild at my back, the call of the panther surfacing in my mind. With a slow shake of my head, I took a step back. "No, Listen, you have until the moon sinks low." His voice sharpened to a blade, cutting through my defiance. "You don't belong here. Go." Caught between instincts and curiosity, the wilderness swirled around me as I turned and bolted. Branches clawed at my skin, the ground uneven beneath my feet. I ran without looking back, the shadows of the woods closing in behind me, relentless and hungry. I could hear the whispers of the trees, the untold stories urging me to stop, to turn, but my feet kept pounding against the earth. As I burst through the tree line and into the clearing of my neighborhood, the calm of the streetlights brought a breath of relief. I fell to my knees on the grass, gasping for breath, the grip of the woods still clinging to my soul. But even as relief washed over me, I felt the weight of the forest linger. I had awakened something in those woods, something primal and deep, and it wasn't finished with me yet. The panther's eyes flashed in my mind, a warning of what lay beyond the light. I rose slowly, heart still racing, a resolve starting to build within me. The woods would call again. They always did. And when they did, I wouldn't run. The days that followed were a fever dream. Sleep eluded me, each night stretching into an endless tapestry of shadows and low growls. I found myself drawn back to that clearing, where the trees whispered their ancient secrets under the waning moon. My body ached for the wild. My mind ached for answers. One fateful evening, fatigue settling deep in my bones, I wandered out again, the moon full and taunting. My heart thrummed with a mixture of dread and anticipation. As I stepped into the woods, I felt it, a magnetic pull, a promise of revelation. "Why do I keep coming back?" I murmured to the night, listening for a reply. The wind rustled through the branches, but the only answer was the steady cadence of my heartbeat, drumming in synchronicity with the whispering woods. I followed a path illuminated by silver light, deeper into the heart of the forest. Each step resonated with a haunting familiarity, as if the ground beneath me was murmuring my name. The trees swelled around me, their gnarled limbs forming a cathedral of living shadows. Suddenly, I was no longer alone. There, in the clearing, stood the California Panther. Its fur glistened in the moonlight, an embodiment of wilderness and primal desire. I froze, the very air thick with anticipation. It turned its head towards me, eyes gleaming like molten gold, deep and ancient, full of secrets that beckoned me to step closer. "Are you coming to find what you've lost?" The voice was a soft, velvety whisper that vibrated through the stillness. I didn't realize I had spoken out loud until I felt the warm breath of the panther on my skin, the connection palpable. "What do you mean?" I choked out, feeling my knees threaten to buckle beneath me. "Your essence is in the woods, entwined with my shadow. You only need to claim it." The panther blinked slowly, each movement deliberate, as if inviting me to unravel the enigma that had seduced me for so long. I reached out a trembling hand, the warmth radiating from the panther drawing me closer. Suddenly, memories flooded my mind, times I had felt lost, misunderstood, suppressing parts of myself to fit into a world that sought to tame me. The panther was not just a creature. It was the embodiment of my own unclaimed identity, a fierce spirit that yearned to be set free. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," I whispered, tears pooling in my eyes. "I want to belong to something larger." The panther stepped forward, nuzzling my palm. A pact formed in that electric moment of connection. I could feel the energy pulsing around us, a swirling mix of the wild's chaos and a profound sense of peace. Then I witnessed it, the shape of my fears, regrets, and desires merging into the night, a dark fog weaving through the trees, merging into the very fabric of the forest. I understood in that instant that I had been marked, yes, but it was not a curse, it was a blessing. "Run with me," the panther growled softly, a challenge and an invitation interwoven. "Let the wild reclaim you." With a surge of courage I nodded, and together we burst into the night. Leaf and shadow blurred by as we moved, the exhilaration of freedom propelling us forward. I felt the whispers of the woods wrap around my spirit, enveloping me with a sense of belonging I had never known. We raced under the moonlight, untamed and wild, the world slipping away. I was no longer lost, I was home. The dawn broke with the first rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, illuminating my return to the familiar. But I was different. No longer merely a visitor caught between two worlds, I carried the essence of the panther within me, a part of the wild forever entwined with my soul. Exhausted but triumphant, I emerged from the woods as the last vestiges of twilight faded, a quiet understanding settling in. I had answered the call, and I would never turn back. With a final glance at the tree line, where shadows danced, I whispered my gratitude into the morning light before taking my first step forward, a heartbeat in a world reborn.